G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildcard. Thank you for being here and watching my content, and as always, it is my pleasure and the absolute privilege to talk about rugby. And you are here today because it's Tuesday and it's time to read some rugby news. First up, the Super Rugby Grand Final, the Chiefs versus Crusaders in Hamilton. Yeah, Crusaders has walked away with another Super Rugby title under this man. The could be the GOAT of rugby coaches, at least in Super Rugby, Scott Robinson. And this guy is going to be so good for the All Blacks next year, as he is already confirmed to be the next All Blacks coach going into 2024. And the work that this coach has done for the Crusaders to win this match in Hamilton is absolutely extraordinary. The Crusaders actually started the season quite poorly, losing to the Chiefs in the first round, losing to the Moana Pacificans, losing to the Fijian Endura in Fiji, underestimating the power of the Fijians. And Scott Robinson then suffered injuries after injuries after injuries in key positions, and Scott Robinson put together a bunch of B-team players essentially, and drilled them, trained them, gave them the right guidelines, and really put this team that is a largely not an All Blacks, not really a you call All Black starter team, all the way to the final, beating the looking like unbeatable Chiefs, only losing one game the whole season, handed them the second loss, to win the game 25-20. This was absolute extraordinary performance by the Crusaders. The Chiefs clearly had more talent on the field, but the Crusaders just knew exactly what they wanted to do to squeeze out those little bit of advantage that was in their favor, and walking out the victories. This was really, really impressive, both strategically on the field and off the field, through planning and coaching and just, relentless training that led to this result. So really, my hat's off to you, Mr. Robinson, Razor, and Mr. Robertson. And looking really, really good for the All Blacks coming up next year. Obviously, this was the last match for Sam Whitelock under the Crusaders. He's going overseas next year. And he was actually injured, believe it or not, playing this game. He has an ankle injury, I believe he was. Yeah, with an ankle injury. And he played the full game, not just half a game or 60 minutes. He put in the hard yards for full 80 minutes with the injury that is still hurting him. So he was literally saying that he had to push through the pain in the game to kind of help the Crusaders to finally win the game. His performance was extraordinary. This is sort of like mentality and the mental fortitude that is required for the All Blacks to win championships, to win the World Cup. I'm really, really proud of his performance. He's saying that he's going to get in trouble with the All Blacks management, obviously, because they don't want him to be injured going to the Rugby World Cup. And he put himself in a very big injury and could potentially, not able to play a couple games going into the Rugby Championship. If depends on if he's actually exacerbated his injury. But that mental strength, that the respect that he wants to bring for his team, for the fans, and just the heart that he showed to just really deliver what is required for their team, to not just go, hey, I'm gonna come off 60 minutes because of my injury, to push through the whole game as his team required him to do. It's just absolutely extraordinary by Sam Whitelock. So yeah, really, I thought it was fine, but it turns out he was actually pushing through pain. So yeah, really, round of applause for Sammy Whitelock, really well, and he's gonna go overseas as well. Now let's go to the ugly side of the game. Obviously, the game of rugby nowadays wouldn't be a game of rugby without referee controversies. Overall, I thought Ben O'Keefe has done. There was a couple of big mistakes in this game, but overall, I thought he wasn't particularly biased towards either teams. I think there was a forward pass led into a try, and then there was a Josh Goodhue, not Goodhue, was Anton Leonard-Brown put on a high shot in early in the game, which should have been a red card, but that was the TMO's decision nowadays. It wasn't Ben O'Keefe's decision. Should have been a red card, but the TMO reverted to a yellow. It is cited after the game, and it is deemed that it was off the threshold of the red card. So Ben O'Keefe was booed off the field, and there was New Zealand Rugby had to come out and make a statement saying that, we wanted to support our referee. We do not condone any sort of referee abuse on and off the field. I mean, I thought it was quite even. It wasn't nearly like there was wrong decisions, but I think if you're just gonna boo the referee because you're salty about losing the game, I think that's not really good for the salty Crusader fans. So like we mentioned already, Anton Lennon-Brown, he received a yellow card in the game. So the current process is that the yellow card goes up to review, and then the review committee upstairs in the TMO box will decide whether it's a red or not. And the TMO box decided it was a red. It was yellow, which was clearly a red. Everybody in the world who watched any rugby would know that's a red, except for the TMO apparently. So the TMO said it was yellow, allowed him back from the field to not ruin the match. But later on, he decided and he's deemed to be worthy of a red card, and he will be banned for 6 weeks. But then they deemed that his clean record, reduced it down to 3, which means bad news for Sir Fozzie. Antoine Lennon-Brown will be missing out on the rugby championships because the 3 weeks is basically they're only playing 3 games or 4 games? 3 games, I think. For the official rugby championship, they will be playing like a 4th game against Australia. That's not part of rugby championship for the Bellota Silver Cup. But yeah, he's going to be missing out on the rugby championship, but due to the suspension. And Sean Stevenson was also added into the squad last week. Ian Foster came out kind of like explain why. Again, in the final, Sean Stevenson was looking really spectacular for the Chiefs. And yeah, Fozzie basically came out and sort of stated that, you know, Stevenson's attack has been really, really good this season, but he did feel like Stevenson's defense needed a bit more improvement. He is called into the squad as a cover for Mark Talea, who's suffering a little bit of injury at the moment. But yeah, there's some clarifications from Ian Foster as to why he wasn't initially selected. To the Blues team now, the 2 props that will be leaving the Blues team next year. The Nipo Laulala has been confirmed to move into France. He will be signing with a top 14 club, most likely Montpellier. And Alex Hodgman has also been left by the club. There's no clear indication where Hodgman will be going at the moment. And then good news for New Zealand rugby. Mark Talea has resigned to 2025. He is currently the best performing winger in Super Rugby, and he has some really spectacular records that I just want to highlight. So he has scored 12 tries this season with 24 clean breaks and 101 defenders beaten. And this is the try scored equals the record that was set in Super Rugby by Doug Howlett. Doug Howlett, just thinking of this guy gives me nightmares. He was one of the greatest wingers ever in the history of the All Blacks. Absolute try scoring machine. And with his curly hair, iconic curly hair, he was really, really good and gave me nightmares as a child. Doug Howlett. But yeah, Mark Talea has improved his record. So really bright futures ahead of him for the All Blacks in the Rugby World Cup. So there was some talks about potentially bringing in like a salary cap and draft system for the Super Rugby, and 2 big names from the All Blacks, Sir Graham Henry and Sir Steve Hansen, 2 World Cup winning coaches for the All Blacks, have stepped into the ring and said they put support for a draft system. The thing about draft system is obviously the way it's set up is really, really important. So the Rugby League currently has a draft system that is really, really flawed. A lot of pundits has spoken out loudly about the flawed system in the flawed draft system. Not draft system. Actually, Rugby League don't have a draft system. I'm sorry. But there's like a lot of different... Yeah, it depends how you're going to do it. Rugby League has a salary cap, but they don't have a draft system. So Super Rugby wants to bring in both a salary cap and a draft system, which depends on how you're going to work. It's really, really important to set that correctly, because if they just do what Rugby League's doing, that just have a salary cap, a lot of clubs are basically going just poaching players at the end of the season at the moment. So there's some discussion right now as some of the top clubs are trying to draft in talented players from lower league clubs, players to kind of like finish the season with some helps from talents from lower clubs to fill up their roster for next season. But obviously that's something that that's a flawed system without it, because they don't have a draft. So Super Rugby needs to have a draft to avoid that. But having a salary cap is also really, really important, something Rugby League already has. Next up, Eddie Jones has announced the official rugby championship squad for the Wallabies on the week, and this was something that really caught me by surprise for one really, really big reason, actually. Eddie Jones, Sir Eddie, has done it. He has done it. He has broken the bureaucracy at Rugby Australia, and managed to draft 5 overseas players to the Wallabies. Yes, he has broken the Gito's law with 5 players drafted into the squad, which includes Quade Cooper, Samuel Kerevi, technically injured, Rory Arnold's brother, Richie Arnold, Will Skelton, and the last guy is Marinka Corambetti, right? Samuel Kerevi, Marinka Corambetti, Richie Arnold, Will Skelton, and Quade Cooper. 5 players, which breaks the rule of the Gito's law, which only allows 3 players. Some people, so maybe you can change the name of the law to, the Drew Mitchell law. So this should be, the law should be modified to Drew Mitchell's law, to the 5 selections, players overseas. And what's really, really important is the law initially states that you have to play a certain amount of Super Rugby games or certain amount of the games for the Wallabies. So I think it was like 3 seasons or 2 or 3 seasons in Super Rugby and certain amount of Wallaby games to be qualified. Richie Arnold has not qualified. He's debuting for the Wallabies, so he has not played any game for the Wallabies. So that's another breach to the Gito's law. So there was the limit, the minimum required games has dropped for the Wallabies, has dropped to 0 essentially. But I think there might be there might be some technicality where he's played. Yeah, basically the rules has been completely shattered by Eddie Jones. So I'm really pleased with that because I mean, the Wallabies represents the best players for Australia, not the best players that can't find a contract overseas, right? It's not just like, oh yeah, let's let the best players who are not good enough to make overseas. That shouldn't be what the Wallabies represent. That should be the best players. Australian players has to offer for the big stage. And yeah, Eddie Jones has done really well to break through the bureaucracy. And I'm very happy, very, very happy about this what he's actually achieved. So let's have a quickly look at the squads. So forwards, we've got Ali Alatua for the Brumbies. Richie Arnold, he plays for the top 14 in Toulouse, who just won the top 14 final. Matt Fazler, Nick Frost for the Brumbies. Matt Gibbon, I think he's from Brumbies as well. Jet Halloway, Michael Hooper. So there'll be 2 captains in this team as well. Michael Hooper and James Slipper. Obviously, Michael Hooper has mental health issues. Maybe Eddie Jones wants to take some of the burden off his head. James Slipper is it's going to be one of the most capped players in the Wallabies as well. Well, what the veteran in the team at the moment. So really that experience shows as well. And just between you and I, James Slipper plays a lot better when he's the captain. He actually puts in more effort as the captain, feeling that responsibility upon himself. He actually put in more effort. So it's good to see that. Eddie Jones has followed that up with James Slipper, Tom Hooper, Rob Leota, Fraser McRae, Zan Nongor, I think that's how you pronounce it, Zang Nongor, Dave Parekis, Pete Samuel, Will Skelton plays for the top 14 for La Rochelle, who came second in the top 14 finals. James Slipper, like I said, this is the second captain, the co-captain. Tanela Tupos racing back from injury. Jordan Ulesi, Rob Valentini in the back line. Quade Cooper, I'm actually a bit surprised that he's selected in the starting position. I felt like maybe they would have considered him as like a backup player, because Quade hasn't been playing much rugby at all due to an injury. He had very limited time on the field. So, and then to think that last season, I saw he really didn't play much international test rugby. His brilliance came from 2021, so almost 2 years ago when he beat the Springboks. So yeah, he really hasn't showed enough in the last 24 months or so. Not 24 months, let's say last 12 months or so, that he deserved a spot in the Wallabies. So I don't know how this is going to go. Again, big question mark for Quade, how he's going to perform for the Wallabies, or whether or not Eddie Jones is going to start him. Lalakai Fageti gets a spot. Carter Gordon probably could be the starting player at the 10 position, because Eddie Jones seems to really like him a lot, the style that he plays. And then we got Len Ikitau, Marinka Corambetti coming back from overseas, Ryan Lonergan, Tate McDermott, Nwanga Nitawasi, Mark Nwanga Nitawasi, and Isaiah Peresi. The Rugby League representative, Suliasi Vunivalu. Again, he's improved a lot and given a lot more game time in the Reds, but I do think that his positioning and his read of the game is still lacking quite a bit. I want to see how Eddie Jones wants to use him. Eddie Jones has this morbid desire to have more rugby league players, even though rugby league and rugby union is a very different game these days. And yeah, we'll have, I don't know how much Eddie Jones is going to actually use him, and to what result if Eddie Jones uses Vunivalu, is he going to extract from him? Because he's just really not quite there. Is still a little bit undercooked. Nick White and Tom Wright. Utility, they have Ben Donaldson, Josh Kemeny, and Dylan Peach from the Waratahs. We've got a few players in the injury group as well. Angus Bell, Langi Gleeson, Andrew Callaway, big names. Samuel Karevi, Jordan Pataya, and Matt Phillip. There's a bunch of players that are not considered due to injuries. And then there's a train-on squad. I guess these people holding the reserves if anybody gets injured. One big name I thought was a little bit surprising for me is there was a couple big surprising names. Falau Falenga. He used to be the prominent starting player for the Wallabies. Pong Fa'ama Ma'usili, also a huge prop that's left out. Darcy Swang, probably again big name that's kind of left out. Harry Wilson, I really didn't think he really made it quite yet. Lockie Swinton not made it there. In the back line, I thought the big name is James O'Connor. Jay Gordon is not in the starting selections. Again, in one of the one of the kind of like backups, and then utility Seru Uru is in the squad as well. So yeah, go through that list if you want in the utilities. But yeah, we'll have to see how this team performs against the Springboks coming up really shortly. So Eddie Jones once again was talking more about NRL because with his mobile obsession about poaching rugby league players, something that has found him a lot of success in the past, but I think in 2023 might be an outdated idea, Eddie. He's talked about 3 or 4 NRL big names he's ready to sign. He has revealed to one of in one of his interviews last week to Sky News today, and he didn't exactly say who these guys were, but we shall see. Hopefully someone good. This is a new Wallabies jersey. I just showed this picture. Did anyone think that he was giving the finger giving everyone the finger the first time they saw this? Because initially I thought he was giving me the finger with this picture, but that's a new Wallabies kid looking, okay, I guess. At least they got the color correctly. I guess it's no longer orange, so that's a really, really big plus for me. So the Rebels have picked up another big name. Filippo Targunu will be going from the Reds to the Rebels, and this is following the obviously Tanela Tupou going there, and then Lukem Salaka-Loto, Darby Lancaster, and Jordan Ulisi will all be we will be going to the squad. So next up, Andrew Jones has been spotted doing some sessions with the with the fly halves at the Wallabies training this week. Some videos emerged with him giving tips to Carden Gordon and who is this guy, James O'Connor maybe. And then it is, Andrew Jones used to be one of the best playmakers, not one of the best, he probably is the best playmaker in the history of rugby league. And he is, his support, his help will be tremendous for the Wallabies. But based on the way the Blues is performing at the moment, I don't know if Andrew Jones has anything to do with that. But the Blues, Rugby League Blues, the New South Wales team, hasn't been performing very well. The attack looks pretty bad. So hopefully Andrew Jones isn't teaching the players what the Blues were doing. And that's something that's quite cool. Eddie Jones has also talked about how he almost had Andrew Jones switching to the Wallabies in 2005 or something after the Rugby World Cup. And if Andrew Jones had switched, it would have been a massive, massive deal. Isaac Rodda has been injured for the Wallabies. He will be missing out on the Rugby Championship, but will likely be returning to the Rugby World Cup. So let's go to South Africa now. So Rassie Erasmus has come out this week and basically emphatically stamped out any sort of speculations that the Springboks are the favourites going into the Rugby World Cup, really putting the Springboks as an underdog going into the defending champions going into the Rugby World Cup. With he basically said that the squad is behind currently the rank 1 is Ireland and France is second, and with the Wallabies it's looking pretty good with Eddie Jones. He thinks the All Blacks is always a threat, so he thinks that his Springboks is like 5th favourites to win the Rugby World Cup. I like how he put the Wallabies ahead of the Springboks as more favourite to win the Rugby World Cup than the Springboks. So he thinks that they're number 5 in the world at the moment. The Springboks also came out and further suggested that they're not going to be running an A and B team going into the Rugby Championship. Yeah, we all know that the Springbok has an A team and there's a B team, and everybody knows that. But the coaches have come out and further deny that the structure that the Springbok is operating. Marvin Orie from the Springboks has been confirmed to be going to top 14 to Perpignan. There has been some talks last week that he was going. People already know how he was going to be going, but it's been confirmed last week. Nkosi, Subu Nkosi, has been left out of the Bulls team. They have mutually agreed to terminate his contract. And this was due to some issues off the field. Essentially, he has some mental health issues. He was away from when missing for a while during this end of last year, leading to the club calling in for a missing person. He also broke the club's curfew whilst they were awaiting Ireland. So there was a number of issues that related to his behavior off the field, leading to the team kind of just agreeing that let's just go our separate ways between Subu and Nkosi, one of the very talented players for the Springboks. Yeah, speaking of talented players, John Klein has confirmed his allegiance back to the Springboks. I guess I don't know what is the process of getting your citizenship back as a South African. I don't know, what do you need to do? I don't know. You may have to sacrifice a sheep, maybe. Put some barbecue on, and yeah, I don't know. But he's finally back at the Springboks. Whether he's gonna be playing or not, there's some speculations that he might get to play right away due to some niggling injuries with Eben Esbeth at the moment. So we could potentially see him against the Wallabies on the field, or maybe even off the bench right away for the Springboks. And we shall see how that's gonna go. But he originally played for Ireland, and now he's back to South Africa for the Springboks. Siya Kolisi also came out last week and updated on his injury. He hasn't spoken about it, but he's in training. He's pretty positive. He's helping out the team whenever he can. But the main thing that he talked about is hopefully he will be ready to play one or two of the warm-up games leading to the Rugby World Cup. So that is really quick recovery, because the warm-up games is only like 2 months away, and his ACL injury. He has an ACL injury. Normally, these injuries takes like 6 months to a year to recover. And he's only been out for he's only had surgery for a month. So it's going to be 2 months, maybe 3, as he steps onto the field to play these warm-up games for an injury that normally takes 6 months and more. So yeah, this is really, really rushing it, but he's positive, and I think the entire nation of South Africa are hoping for him to come back and do well. Emmanuel Miafo, who's an Australian player playing in France at the moment, has applied to play for France for the Rugby World Cup, has his eligibility denied. The eligibility law has extended from 3 years to 5 years, and Emmanuel is just a little bit short, so he will not be able to play for France until next year. Next up, we've got some contract extension for Ian Henderson with Ireland for another 2 years, so he will be staying at Ulster. Big injury to England Rugby. Billy Vunipola is going through a knee injury, so he's going to be having an operation. He is expected to be fit for Rugby World Cup, but he's been out of sort of favor with Borthwick anyway, so I don't know if he's, yeah, that's kind of the story. Warren Gatland has named another squad with 3 more players being released. Ken Owens, George McLeod, and Will Davis-King. And these guys are left out due to injury. So the big one, obviously, out of the list is Ken Owens, who is currently the captain for Wales after Alan Wynne-Jones and Justin Tipuric has abandoned ship on their own nation. Disgrace, I think. Bit of a disgrace. Has abandoned the ship and leaving Warren Gatland to appoint Ken Owens in charge. So since Ken Owens is injured now, Warren Gatland has been talking about potentially running a co-captain situation, having 2 captains and maybe even a younger captain as a mixed going into the Rugby World Cup. So yeah, that's the news for this week, guys. Let me know your thoughts on any of the articles. like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching my videos as always every week. It's really, really nice to have you here. And yeah, let me know your thoughts. Put it in the comments. I will answer all of them. And have a good week. I will see you this weekend, maybe. I'll think of something up maybe for a video. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a good week. Cheers.